Barents Sea, Arctic Ocean, 11:34 a.m. Ice everywhere. USS John Paul Jones, a guided missile destroyer, conducting freedom of navigation near Russian waters. Then suddenly, a Russian warship appeared. Admiral Levchenko, Udaloy-class destroyer, armed with torpedoes, missiles, and 800 Russian sailors. It positioned itself directly in the American ship's path, blocking, challenging. Moscow's message was clear. These are our waters, turn back. But at 11:34 a.m., the American captain did something Moscow never expected. He didn't turn back. He didn't slow down. He didn't even blink. What happened in the next 9 minutes almost triggered a naval collision between two nuclear superpowers. This is that story.
Arctic waters, Russia's backyard. For decades, this region was frozen, inaccessible, uncontested. But climate change melted the ice, opened new shipping routes, revealed oil and gas reserves worth trillions. Russia claimed ownership, built military bases, increased naval patrols. America disagreed. International waters means international access. That morning, the USS John Paul Jones was proving that point. At 10:45 a.m., the destroyer entered the Barents Sea, legal, routine. But Russian Northern Fleet Command saw it differently. At 11:15 a.m., the Admiral Levchenko left port. Orders: intercept the American ship, force them to retreat. Captain Viktor Sokolov commanded the Russian destroyer, 30 years in the Navy, Cold War veteran. He'd faced American ships before. Always they backed down. At 11:28 a.m., the two warships were 10 miles apart. At 11:32 a.m., 2 miles. At 11:34 a.m., the Russian ship cut directly across the American destroyer's bow. Naval equivalent of slamming on brakes in front of someone. Dangerous, provocative, illegal. The Russian captain radioed, "American warship, you are approaching Russian territorial waters. Alter course immediately." On the bridge of the John Paul Jones, Commander Rebecca Stone stared at her tactical display. The Russian ship was 500 meters ahead, dead in the water, blocking their path. Her executive officer, "Ma'am, recommend we change course, avoid confrontation." Commander Stone picked up the radio. Her voice was ice cold. "Russian vessel, this is USS John Paul Jones, conducting lawful operations in international waters. You are operating unsafely. Request you move aside immediately." Silence. Then Captain Sokolov's reply, "We will not move. You will turn back or face consequences." Commander Stone looked at her weapons officer. "What's our collision course timing at current speed? If neither ship changes course, 4 minutes to impact. 4 minutes to decide. Back down and give Russia a propaganda victory, or maintain course and risk collision." Commander Stone made her choice. "All ahead full. Maintain heading. Do not deviate." Her crew looked at her in shock. "Ma'am, we're going to hit them." "No, we're not. They'll move. Trust me." 11:35 a.m., 3 minutes to collision. The USS John Paul Jones accelerated, 25 knots, heading directly toward the Russian destroyer. On the Admiral Levchenko, alarms sounded, officers shouting. Radar showing the American ship closing fast. Captain Sokolov couldn't believe it. "They're not turning, they're not slowing." His first officer, "Sir, collision in 2 minutes, we must move." "Hold position," Sokolov ordered. "They're bluffing." But Commander Stone wasn't bluffing. At 11:36 a.m., 1,000 meters between ships. At 11:37 a.m., 700 meters. At 11:38 a.m., 400 meters. The Russian crew was panicking. This wasn't a naval exercise. This was real. 2 warships on collision course. Captain Sokolov's hands gripped the rail, sweat despite the Arctic cold. "Captain, 300 meters, we must move." Still, Sokolov hesitated. Moving meant losing face, admitting defeat. 200 meters, 150 meters. At 100 meters, ship lengths away, Captain Sokolov broke. "Hard to starboard, emergency turn, now!" The Admiral Levchenko's engines roared. The massive ship turned hard right, barely. At 11:39 a.m., the USS John Paul Jones passed within 60 meters of the Russian destroyer. So close that sailors on both ships made eye contact. So close that a collision would have sunk both vessels. The American destroyer maintained course, maintained speed, as if nothing happened. Commander Stone's voice over the radio, calm as glass. "Russian vessel, thank you for observing safe navigation practices. Good day." The humiliation was complete. Russia had tried to block an American warship, force them to retreat. Instead, they were forced to move, in their own backyard, in front of their own fleet. Captain Sokolov stood on his bridge, silent, defeated. His crew avoided eye contact. Everyone knew what just happened. Russia blinked first.
Within hours, both sides reported the incident. Russian Defense Ministry. American warship conducted dangerous maneuvers near Russian territorial waters. Russian Navy ensured safety of navigation. Pentagon response. USS John Paul Jones exercised lawful freedom of navigation. Russian vessel operated unsafely and was forced to maneuver to avoid collision. Satellite footage told the real story. Independent analysts released video showing the Russian ship blocking, the American ship approaching, the Russian ship turning away at the last second. Global reaction was immediate. NATO allies praised Commander Stone. Textbook response to Russian intimidation. China watched carefully. If America doesn't back down to Russia in the Arctic, they won't back down to China in the Pacific. But the biggest impact was in Moscow. Russian military blogs exploded. Veterans criticized Captain Sokolov. "You had one job. Hold your position. You failed." Within a week, Sokolov was reassigned. Not promoted, not decorated. Quietly moved to a desk job. The message from Russian Naval Command was clear. Losing face to America is unacceptable. But here's the deeper truth. Russia had to move, because international maritime law is specific. The vessel with right-of-way, the one maintaining course and speed, has priority. The vessel that cuts across another's path, the Admiral Levchenko, must give way. Captain Sokolov violated maritime law by blocking the American ship. If a collision occurred, Russia would be legally responsible, internationally condemned, financially liable. Commander Stone understood this. She knew maritime law better than the Russian captain. So she called his bluff, maintained
her legal right, forced him to choose between collision or compliance. He chose compliance, and in doing so, proved that Russian Arctic dominance is an illusion, because control isn't about who lives there, it's about who enforces the rules. And in international waters, America enforces the rules.
So why does the Arctic matter? 3 reasons. First, resources. Oil, gas, minerals worth over $1 trillion beneath the ice. Second, shipping. Melting ice opens the northern sea route, cuts shipping time from Europe to Asia by 40%. Third, military strategy. Submarines can hide under ice. Missiles can launch from Arctic bases. Russia wants to control all 3, claims the Arctic as Russian domain. But international law says otherwise. Most of the Arctic Ocean is international waters. This is why American freedom of navigation operations matter. Every time a U.S. warship sails through Arctic waters, it reinforces international law. It prevents Russian territorial expansion. China understands this. That's why Chinese icebreakers now explore the Arctic. Beijing is watching American resolve. If America backs down to Russia in the Arctic, China will push harder in the South China Sea. This is global strategy. One incident, multiple implications. Commander Stone didn't just win a standoff with one Russian ship. She sent a message to every nation watching. America will not be intimidated. Not in the Arctic, not in the Pacific, not anywhere. Russia has more icebreakers, more Arctic bases, geographic advantage. But America has something more important: the will to enforce international law, the courage to stand firm, the professionalism to win without fighting. At 11:34 a.m., Russia tried to block an American warship. At 11:39 a.m., Russia was forced to move. 5 minutes that changed Arctic geopolitics. Today, the USS John Paul Jones continues Arctic patrols. Commander Rebecca Stone was promoted to captain. Russian ships still patrol the Barents Sea, but they keep their distance now. The lesson was learned. Because here's what the Arctic incident proved. Modern naval warfare isn't about firepower, it's about nerve. Russia had a larger ship, home waters advantage, geographic support. But Commander Stone had something Russia didn't: absolute confidence in international law and American resolve. She knew Russia wouldn't risk collision, knew they'd move at the last second, knew that calling their bluff was the right tactical choice. And she was right. This is why the United States Navy remains the world's most dominant maritime force. Not because of superior numbers. Russia has more Arctic ships. Not because of geography. The Arctic is Russia's backyard. But because of training, professionalism, the courage to enforce rules even when outnumbered or outpositioned. 11:34 a.m., Barents Sea, Arctic Ocean. 2 destroyers, 1 collision course, 0 shots fired. Russia blocked America's path. America didn't stop. Russia moved. And the Arctic remained international waters. This is the future of naval conflict. Not battles, not wars, but tests of will. Tests that America keeps winning. Because when you're in the right, you don't need to fire weapons. You just need to hold your course. This is modern naval warfare. This is the Arctic standoff.
And this is what happens when Russia underestimates American resolve.